Do you want to, once you call the order, we'll move to the side. Once you call order, we'll move to the side.
Yeah. Okay. We're going to do a moment of silence.
Okay.
Good evening. Thank you for coming. We are going to do our traditional meeting start in a minute, but we would like to have a moment of silence. We lost 2 bus drivers over the holidays, and so to honor them, would you please join me in a moment of silence? Thank you. Okay, we'll call this meeting to order. Jenny, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Audit. Mrs. Bodie.
Here.
Mrs. O'Connor.
Here.
Mrs. Schaefer.
Here.
Mrs. Casper.
Here. We will start with Mrs. Bodie being sworn in. You want to come up front there? Get out of your way.
Isaac.
Should we use the microphone for the?
Oh, I bet you don't need it, George.
The recording would capture it.
There's one right there if you want to grab it.
Okay. Matt. Perfect. Want your daughter here too? Okay. Darby Bodie, do you solemnly swear that you will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Ohio, and that you will faithfully and impartially discharge your duties as a member of the Board of Education of the Lakota School District, Butler County, Ohio, to the best of your ability and in accordance with the laws now in effect and hereafter to be enacted during your continuance in said office and until your successor is elected and qualified? If so, please say I do. Congratulations, you are now a member.
Okay, Kelly, it's your turn.
My turn.
So congratulations on your reelection. I'm going to administer the oath of office to you, and your service began on January 1st, 2022 and will extend through December 31st, 2025.
Wow.
So please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear that you will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Ohio, and that you will faithfully and impartially discharge your duties as a member of the Board of Education of the Lakota Local School District, Butler County, Ohio, to the best of your ability and in accordance with the laws now in effect and hereafter to be enacted during your continuance in said office and until your successor is elected and qualified? If you agree, please state, I do.
I do.
Congratulations.
Thank you, Jenny. All right, let's have a seat. I know. I'm like, man, she's making me swear to a lot of things. All right. Okay, now we're going to stand up again and join me in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I need a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second. Mrs. Logan, when you're ready, you can call the roll.
Mrs. O'Connor,
Yes.
Mrs. Schaefer,
Yes.
Mr. Audit,
Yes.
Mrs. Bodie,
Yes.
Mrs. Casper.
Yes. We've come to the point where we're going to elect our new president for next year. Do I have any nominations?
I nominate,
Pardon?
yeah, have a nomination.
You did, go right ahead.
Yeah, I nominate Linda O'Connor.
Are there any other nominations? All right, Mrs. Logan. All right, when you're ready. Mr. Adi.
Present?
So I need a yes or
Yes or
no
no. Oh,
on
yes.
Linda. Sorry.
Yes.
That's right. Mrs. Bodie,
Yes.
Mrs. O'Connor,
Yes.
Mrs. Schaefer,
Yes.
Mrs. Casper.
Yes. Congratulations. Are now in charge, my friend.
I will point out that Kelly was very happy to turn over to me the public participation rules. I'm just going
Yeah,
to
I
say,
was.
very happy about that. Thank you, board. Really appreciate your confidence and show of support. And I look forward to a great year working with you and with our team. Thank you. All right, let's continue our meeting. I'll take a motion for a nomination for vice president. Is there a nomination?
I nominate Isaac Adi for vice president.
The chair will second. Are there any further nominations? Seeing no further, Mrs. Logan, would you please call the roll?
Mrs. Bodie,
Yes.
Mrs. O'Connor,
Yes.
Mrs. Schaefer,
Yes.
Mrs. Casper,
Yes.
Mr. Adi.
Yes.
Congratulations, Isaac. All right, we'll move to item 6 on our agenda to approve the following. A, membership renewal with the Ohio School Board Association at a cost of $8,081. B, legal assistance fund at a cost of $250. C, the electronic briefcase subscription at no cost. D, the electronic school management news subscription at a cost of $150. And OEPI, Ohio Education Policy Institute, membership at a cost of $1,500. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Julie. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Kelly. I have a motion and a second. Is there discussion?
Are we voting on A through E?
Yes,
Can we pull out A?
yes, we can. I'll take a motion to vote on A or separate A out for a vote. Is there any further discussion? Jenny, would you call the roll, please?
So I want to make sure I understand. So we're only voting on A right now.
Yes,
Yes.
Okay.
and then we'll vote separately on B through E.
Mrs. Schaefer,
Yes.
Mrs. Casper,
Yes.
Mr. Adi,
Yes.
Mrs. Bodie,
No.
and Mrs. O'Connor.
Yes. The motion passes. We'll vote on B through E, please. You call the roll, Mrs. Logan?
Mrs. Schaefer,
Yes.
Mrs. Casper,
Yes.
Mr. Adi,
Yes.
Mrs. Bodie,
Yes.
and Mrs. O'Connor.
Yes. Thank you, board. We'll move to item 7, appoint legislative liaison to also serve as delegate to the OSBA Capital Conference and appoint an alternate. Do I have a motion?
I'll move.
I second.
Thank you, Mrs. Casper and
Are we-
Mr. Adi. Is there discussion?
You need the names? Yeah, we can say who those.
Yes,
people
go
are.
ahead.
Who are those people going to be?
Mr. D has talked about being the alternate and I have offered to be the delegate. So we'll be making motion to, or we've made a motion to vote on myself serving as the voting delegate, Mr. D is the voting alternate. Thank you for asking for clarification. Is there discussion? Are there further suggestions for delegates? All right, seeing nothing further. Mrs. Logan?
Mrs. Casper,
Yes.
Mr. Adi,
Yes.
Mrs. Bodie,
I abstain. Can I abstain from that?
Abstain? Mhm.
Abstain.
Mrs. Schaefer,
Yes.
Mrs. O'Connor.
Yes. Motion passes. Item 8, appoint liaisons to our Board Policy Committee, B, Community Engagement Committee, C, Facilities Committee, D, Safety Committee, and E, Diversity Committees. Do I have a motion for that discussion?
I'll move.
Thank you, Kelly.
As-
Mr. Edy, thank you.
Okay.
We have had some individual discussions and sent a document out to the board last night, so I will go ahead and read those out loud, and then we can have discussion as we're going, if that's all right with the board. So Policy Committee, we have talked about Mrs. Bodie and Mrs. Schaefer. Is there anyone else that would like to do that committee? All right, seeing nothing further, we'll move on to the next one. Community Engagement. We've discussed Mrs. Casper and myself doing community engagement. So anyone else who's interested in those committees? Seeing nothing further, we'll continue. Facilities Committee. At agenda setting, we had a discussion around the following 3 committees. It would be Facilities, Safety, and Diversity. And the discussion is that all 3 of these committees will be all board meetings, all board committee meetings. And the reason for that, several reasons behind it. Some of it is the fact that our facilities plan is going to be a very, very large part of our planning for this year. It's going to require a very intensive amount of time from us and a lot of board discussion to really make sure that all the board is informed and our due diligence has been done before we decide those plans. The Safety Committee has been an all board committee for the last, I believe, 3 years. And again, that's because safety is our paramount concern to us for our students and our staff. And that is an all board meeting that would happen once a quarter, as opposed to every month. The Diversity Committee, again, this has been a very hot topic this year. We know that there are a lot of outstanding issues that need to be addressed, and discussion amongst the entire board, and having the opportunity for those diverse thoughts around that topic, we think would probably be the best way to do it. Timing wise, what we've talked about is moving this for the sake of transparency with our community, and also to make it easier on our administrators to do one block of time, and for the board to be able to plan. We've scheduled out the committee meetings to all fall on the first Friday of the month. We'll alternate the months that we do not have the Safety Committee meeting, we'll alternate that with the Diversity Committee. Are there any concerns, questions, comments around the Facilities, Safety, and Diversity Committees and having the entire board represented there?
The only thing is, Linda, the facilities will meet on the first Monday of each instead of the Friday.
I'm sorry, that's correct. That'll be an evening
Monday.
meeting, actually.
An evening meeting where the rest.
And we really think that that's probably an opportunity that our community would very much like to hear those conversations and discussions. So we have made that an evening meeting once a month. Thank
So
you.
going forward, these are the dates. So Jenny, with these being on the dates, you will not have to notice every committee meeting. This serves as the notice, correct?
Correct. And further down on the agenda, you will approve the timing of those committee meetings, and then we would post those on our website, but you would adopt those dates here. Now, if you need to cancel or change that, then we would notice those. Mhm.
So these would just be committee meetings that, okay, got it.
But if all 5 of you or a majority of the board is here on any of these committee meetings, we would also have to, it would be a board meeting as well as your committee meeting.
But it would just be a board committee meeting. It wouldn't be like a regular agenda, right? Like there wouldn't be like opening statements, closing, or would it be like a regular board meeting?
It would be like a special board meeting for the purpose of this committee meeting.
So it wouldn't be like, we wouldn't have an opening, a closing, a pledge, comments. It would just be,
You'd still need to have an opening and a roll call and an adjournment.
okay, so you'd have, okay.
There's going to be an open meeting, correct?
It would be a opening, a
Open to the
closing.
community.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, open to the community, but it'd
public.
just be, we'd have an opening and a closing. We wouldn't do the rest of the
Okay.
committee and stuff. Okay.
And it should be noted that all of these meetings are open to the community. They are board committee meetings, so they're all open, Matt.
If I
With
can,
the exception of the Safety Committee
Would be
because it's an
executive
issue of safety and security for our schools. And so that would not be something we would invite the public into. We would go into executive session for that purpose. Was there something else?
No, not it.
All right, with that being said, is there any further discussion or comments on the committees? Nope. All right, then I'll take a motion to approve the appointment of the liaisons to those committees as discussed.
I've got a
I think Kelly, I'm sorry, already motioned.
Mhm.
Isaac Kim.
Yeah.
Yep.
Had seconded.
second, yeah.
So would you call the roll, please?
Yes. Mrs. Casper,
Yes.
Mr. Adi,
Yes.
Mrs. Bodie,
Yes.
Mrs. Schaefer,
Yes.
Mrs. O'Connor.
Yes. Thank you. The motion passes. Board, we've received a list of suggested proposed meeting and agenda review dates. It's this document. And I will take a motion to establish the Board of Education regular meeting dates, times, and locations for 2022 as designated in this document. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Julie. A second?
I second.
Take Darby as a second. I have a motion and a second. Is there discussion?
I know in the past, we've sometimes had trouble getting a quorum for the July meeting. I just want to let you know right now, I will not be able to attend that July meeting.
Thank you for the early notification.
Got trouble with that one.
Anything else?
So is this set on stone or there could be possibility of some changes?
What this means is that this is our official notice once this is approved. So they will not be noticed again. If we do need to change them for something, then it'll just have to go through a notice.
These are our normal, the second
Yeah.
and fourth
Yeah.
Monday, yes.
Yeah.
And yeah, if something were to come up and we had to change one, then we would have to notice it. But for now, we would not have to.
Okay.
I did notice that we have Valentine's Day here as a meeting. I didn't know. Again, I'm okay with that. I don't know if we want to do that to our staff. To have a board meeting on Valentine's Day.
Doesn't
So.
matter to me.
I've been married 32
Fine.
years ago.
The gift.
Just have a day less now. Just means-
Where else would your spouse rather be?
Yeah. Okay.
This means you have to bring us chocolates. Yeah.
No,
That
we have
means.
to bring them.
My spouse will not be surprised at all. So, all
Okay.
right. Any other comments on this? Nothing further? Mrs. Logan, would you call the roll?
Mrs. Schaefer,
Yes.
Mrs. Bodie,
Yes.
Mr. Adi,
Yes.
Mrs. O'Connor,
Yes.
Mrs. Casper.
Yes.
Moving on to 10, establishing the Board of Education committee meeting dates, times, and locations for 2022. I'll take a motion to approve the proposed committee dates as proposed on this document. I think we've all received that. Do I have a motion?
I make a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Adi. Do I have a second?
Second.
I'm gonna let you have practice. I'm looking at you to give you practice.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll move on. Mrs. Hogan?
Mr. Adi,
Yes.
Mrs. Bodie,
Yes.
Mrs. Casper,
Yes.
Mrs. Schaefer,
Yes.
Mrs. O'Connor.
Yes. The motion passes. Number 11, establishing a board service fund at $20,000 as authorized by Ohio Revised Code 3315.15, which provides for the setting aside from the general fund a sum not to exceed $2 per student or $20,000, whichever is greater, to be used only in paying expenses of the Board of Education members in the performance of their duties effective July 1st, 2022 through June 30th, 2023. Do we have a motion to approve?
Move.
Thank you, Kelly. Do I have a second?
Second.
Darby, you're getting very good at this. I have a motion to approve and a second. Is there any discussion? Any questions?
So this $20,000 is what is used to pay us?
It pays the meeting stipends, it pays for professional development, conferences, that kind of thing that we attend.
Right. And the max is $20,000.
Yes.
Okay.
There's an editorial comment I'm sure you'd like to make, but
I
Any
think
other-
it's as a savings of over 16,000 with 20,000. We're saving 16,000. That's good financial management. I love it.
very good. Any further discussion? Mrs. Logan?
Mrs. O'Connor,
Yes.
Mrs. Bodie,
Yes.
Mr. Adi,
Yes.
Mrs. Schaefer,
Yes.
Mrs. Casper.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion passes. Number 12, authorize members of the board to attend any workshop, seminar, or meeting for professional development and to benefit the governance, academic, or financial status of the district. I'll take a motion to approve.
So moved.
Thank you. Mrs. Darby. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. D. Discussion? Or questions? Nothing?
Before we attend a workshop, do we just run it by Jenny, or do we, what's the process look like?
You let them know what you would like to do and let them do the registration in that
Okay.
process.
Okay. All right, thank you.
And then there's an expectation that we report back to the board about what we attend and what we learn at those workshops.
Definitely, thank you.
And do you have a choice of what conference training you want to take?
As long as it's
It's
relevant
relevant
to
Okay.
the work that we do.
Gotcha.
So with our board policy that we approved for travel approval, does this cover that? Or do we still need individual approval for travel?
So I believe that at our next policy meeting that we need to talk about the contradictions of this, because historically at our organizational meeting, you approve your attendance, but then the board policy that was just put in place says that basically you'll have prior approval. That's not the exact wording. So I think trying to figure out that kind of contradiction would be good. It would be a good agenda topic for the first policy
Okay.
meeting.
So we will refer that to our policy committee. And I believe your first meeting is February 4th. I think that you'll have lots to discuss, so. All right. Call for the roll call, please.
Mrs. Bodie,
Yes.
Mr. Adi,
Yes.
Mrs. Casper,
Yes.
Mrs. Schaefer,
Yes.
Mrs. O'Connor.
Yes. Thank you. The motion passes. 13 is to authorize the superintendent on behalf of this board to accept resignations which have been submitted by employees during times when this board is not in session, subject to a follow-up ratification by the board. Provided, however, that upon ratification by this board, such resignation shall be deemed effective as of the date and time of the superintendent's acceptance. I'll take a motion to approve.
I'll move.
Thank you.
Us?
Thank you, Kelly and Julie.
Okay.
I have a motion and a second. Is there discussion? Basically, this allows the business of the district to continue between board meetings and when the board is not in session. Any questions? All right, with that discussion, Mrs. Logan?
Mrs. Casper,
Yes.
Mrs. Schaefer,
Yes.
Mr. Adi,
Yes.
Mrs. Bodie,
Yes.
Mrs. O'Connor.
Yes. Motion passes. Moving to 14, looking for a motion to approve the authorization of the superintendent during periods when this board is not in session to make offers of employment directly to candidates for either teaching or non-teaching positions on behalf of the board and to acknowledge acceptance of such offers on behalf of this board, subject to a subsequent vote of ratification by the board. Provided, however, that upon ratification of this board, the employment should be deemed effective as of the date and the time of the employee's acceptance of the superintendent's offer. Do I have a motion?
I make a motion.
Thank you, Mr. D. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mrs. Bodie. Discussion?
So he can make these decisions but we finalize it in the moment, but we finalize it at the meeting.
That's the process. You'll see a little bit later in the regular meeting where it has the attachment that has all of those staff
Okay.
resignations and retirements and all of that. So that's our approval of it.
Right. Okay. Gotcha. Thank you.
So for like new positions, those positions must have been existed, or he can create anything on his own if there's a need.
I'll give you for example, there's many of them. An easy one would be if we went over class sizes and pick a grade level before the start of the school year, and we needed to hire a teacher before the start of the school year to do the numbers, then you're giving me the authority to do that prior to the school board. Then you would, what's the word that you used? Ratify or reaffirm my decision after that.
Okay, which means that the salary for that position is already agreed upon, or is something that you create that as well?
Can't imagine it would be a new position. I'm not sure that has ever happened.
Gotcha.
Any further discussion? All right, Mrs. Logan, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Adi,
Yes.
Mrs. Bodie,
Yes.
Mrs. Casper,
Yes.
Mrs. Schaefer,
Yes.
Mrs. O'Connor.
Yes, motion passes. Moving on to 15, adopt the following resolution to secure tax advances from Butler County. Whereas Ohio Revised Code Section 321.34 provides that the Board of Education of an Ohio Public School District may request from the appropriate county auditor advance payment of tax funds assessed and collected for and on behalf of each school district. And whereas the aforesaid statute requires that such requests must be made by a formal resolution, and such advance payments of tax funds be paid by the treasurer to the treasurer of the Ohio School District. Now therefore be it resolved by the Board of Education of the Lakota Local School District that Section 1 pursuant to Ohio Revised Code Section 321.34, the Board of Education of the Lakota Local School District hereby requests that the Butler County Auditor advance to the treasurer of the Lakota Local School District taxes assessed in 2021 for on and behalf of the Lakota Local School District and collected in 2022. I'll take a motion.
So moved.
Thank you, Mrs. Bodie.
I'll second.
Thank you, Mrs. Casper. Is there discussion? Any questions? All right. Mrs. Logan, would you call the roll?
Mrs. Bodie,
Yes.
Mrs. Casper.
Yes.
Mr. Adi,
Yes.
Mrs. Schaefer,
Yes.
Mrs. O'Connor.
Yes. Authorize the treasurer to pay bills as per appropriations and to invest funds when possible. This is 16 on our agenda, and I'll take a motion to approve.
I make a motion.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you, Isaac and Darby. You're picking this up very quickly.
I know.
Is there discussion? All right, without further discussion, would you call the roll?
Mr. Adi,
Yes.
Mrs. Bodie,
Yes.
Mrs. Casper,
Yes.
Mrs. Schaefer,
Yes.
Mrs. O'Connor.
Yes. Number 17, I'll take a motion to adopt the tax budget as presented.
So moved.
Thank you, Mrs. Schaefer.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Adi. I have a motion and a second. Is there discussion or questions? Seeing none, Mrs. Logan.
And I'm happy to answer any questions or go through that document with you after the meeting or whenever you
To
have
give a brief
questions.
explanation of what that means.
Sure. So by law, we have to adopt a tax budget by the 15th of January, and I have to file it with the county auditor by January 20th of every year. The document, I'm going to be honest, there's a lot of budgetary documents that we prepare and we review. This one is prepared, and it is not one that we reflect upon nor utilize during the rest of the year. We have other financial documents, such as the 5-year forecast, our annual appropriations, that we really take a lot of time with. This document is more for the county budget commission, so that when they're taking a look at assessing taxes, for example, with our bond issues, when our community approves a bond levy, they are approving the payment of that debt service. And so they take a look at how many mills are necessary to make those debt service payments. And part of that information that we're sending back to the county is that constant communication of what the need is there. And they will make sure that the taxes are assessed properly on our taxpayers.
Are there any questions? Thank you, Mrs. Logan. Would you call the roll?
Mrs. Schaefer,
Yes.
Mr. Adi,
Yes.
Mrs. Bodie,
Yes.
Mrs. Casper,
Yes.
Mrs. O'Connor.
Yes. Motion passes. Number 18, approve the resolution of attendance of community events. We have a resolution that spells out the purpose of that and the use of public funds to do that. And it is resolved that the following are the community and business organizations whose events are approved. Those include the Boys and Girls Club, Reach Out Lakota, Caring Community Collaborative, Edge Teen Center, Northern Cincinnati Foundation, Westchester Liberty Alliance Chamber of Commerce, the Rotary Club of Westchester Liberty, and the Butler Warren County Junior Achievement. I'll take a motion.
Motion.
Thank you, Mrs. Bodie.
I'll second.
Thank you, Mrs. Casper. I have a motion and a second. Is there discussion?
Can this later be updated with an additional organization? I don't think so.
I think once.
Like
that's
1 year,
good.
we had to wait until it came back again.
To the following year.
If I remember right.
There's nothing that I have in mind. I was just wondering.
Yeah, I think we have to wait until.
Okay.
So nothing you want to add at this point?
I have nothing to add.
For now.
Just wondering.
But it did come up. I mean, it's a good question. It came
It
up.
came up a couple years ago.
I can't remember which one it was.
I can't remember either,
I mean,
but we
there-
added something.
Might have been Edge.
Because there are other community organizations that are present. And so if there is one that we would like to be a part of, we can update that.
Maybe like Lions Club, which is not
Thank you.
included.
Not sure,
really?
but I know that we have, it has, when we started this resolution, we might have had maybe 3 or 4 on there. And so it has grown over the
Mhm.
years.
Mhm.
And so,
That's relatively new as well.
yeah.
Yeah, and it's to attend their usually their yearly events, like their yearly fundraising events.
Is there further discussion or question? Seeing none, Mrs. Logan, would you call the roll?
Mrs. Bodie,
Yes.
Mrs. Casper,
Yes.
Mr. Adi,
Yes.
Mrs. Schaefer,
Yes.
Mrs. O'Connor.
Yes. The motion passes. 19, this is to approve the legal firms that we work with for the district. Approve Frost, Brown and Todd, Innis, Britton, Bricker and Eckler, People and Wagner, Bradenhead and Ritchie for legal counsel representation on an as-needed basis. I'll take a motion to approve.
I make a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Adi.
Second.
Mrs. Schaefer. Thank you. I have a motion and a second. Discussion?
I have a question on this. I know I read in the paper that previously we lost some cases. I want to know if any of these attorneys were there and what did we learn from those cases? It's just a question.
An excellent question. Is that a public discussion?
I would say that would be something that we could pull together some information on. I'm trying to think back through my time since I've been here. And we could pull together a summary of
Mhm.
those things and what the result was. And the legal firm that helped us with that. Sometimes some of those involve insurance. And so some attorneys are appointed to us from our insurance company, but we can pull a document together.
Will that suffice, Mr. D? A future update?
Okay. Yeah. Just curious.
I think it's a great question because obviously having strong legal representation makes a huge difference in the use of our taxpayer dollars. Making sure that we're doing things appropriately and legally and by statute is very, very important to the work that we do. So great question.
I think it's also why we employ so many, because everybody has a specialty, that they're, a different specialty. So we make sure that our bases are covered.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Any further comments or questions?
Maybe just, and sometimes you might have a different outcome just because it's less expensive to finish the case than it would be to fully
Yeah.
litigate the case. So that can be frustrating as well, but as we all know, that's sometimes how litigation works.
I know it's very important to have the best
Yeah.
because you might think you want to save money. That is when you can get into serious trouble. So it's good to have the best.
It is. That's a good way to say it.
And I've done the research on this. I like this team that we have right now.
Yes.
Yeah.
True.
Very good team. I've met some of them as well.
Excellent point. Anything else? Seeing nothing further. Mrs. Logan?
Mr. Adi,
Yes.
Mrs. Schaefer,
Yes.
Mrs. Bodie,
Yes.
Mrs. Casper,
Yes.
Mrs. O'Connor.
Yes. Thank you, board. That might have been record timing for our organizational meeting. Thank you for your efficiency. We are going to take a 15-minute recess. There's a moment if either of you would like to get more pictures or anything like that. This would be a great time to do that. So we are recessed for 15 minutes. And we'll see you shortly.
Until 6:50.
Thank you. I'm going to actually share the board president's comments tonight. I know it's hard when you've just been sworn in and you're excited about it and you don't get to say a darn thing. And so I'm going to offer the opportunity to Mrs. Casper first, who was just reelected to her second term. Would you like to make any comments, Mrs. Casper, about your reelection or just
Put me
returning
on
to
the
this,
spot
to this,
there.
to the seat?
No, I'm honored and humbled that, I've been reelected. I have a passion for this district and I have a passion for public education. And so I'm looking forward to 4 more years working with this board and doing what's best for our students and our staff. So thank you.
Thank you. We'll take our 2 newly elected members. Mr. Adi, would you like to say anything?
Yes. So I want to use this opportunity to thank everyone. When I see your faces, I get strengthened, I get encouraged. This is my passion. I believe that I've come a long way and I think I owe this country my best because I've had a lot of opportunities I've never had in my life. As I'm sitting here, sometimes I feel, is it real or am I dreaming? So I don't take this lightly at all. I'm going to do my best and to make sure that our students get my best. And I want to thank you all, those that supported me, helped me in the campaign. That is behind us. So let's go to work. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Adi. Mrs. Bodie.
I just want to say thank you to, everyone that has been involved in, I guess, getting me into this position. And I am humbled to think that, that this is, I don't really know what to say. I'm humbled to think that this is something that the community has trust and faith in us to take care of their children and make decisions according to the community. And this is something that is very important. And I was elected on certain, to accomplish certain things, and I will do that as I am in office. And I'm just thankful for this position and this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Bodie. Mrs. Schaefer, although you're in the middle of your term, would you like to say something as well?
Just welcome to our new board members and look forward to serving with our current board members and the new board as it will now exist.
Thank you. We will move along. Thank you for your comments, and we will go to our superintendent for your report.
Thank you, Mrs. O'Connor. Looking forward to working with our 2 new board members. And my mission hasn't changed. One of the best school districts in the state of Ohio and one of the best in the country. So that's something that I deeply believe in, as you do as well. So just want to make mention of that. Just a couple of things. One would be a COVID update. Obviously coming off of winter, well, maybe not obviously, but obviously coming off of winter break with Christmas and New Year's, our numbers are up. They are high. That was expected. I don't think anybody in this room would think that that wouldn't be expected with people congregating. Of the probably 450 positive cases that we have, we can attribute about less than 10 of those positively to school spread. Rest would be unknown or community spread. So that's something that we continue to watch. It has been and probably will continue that when the kids are in a regular routine and don't have idle time and long breaks, that we tend to do better. But obviously this is a daily struggle for the staff to maintain with our numbers of unfilled vacancies in the classrooms and other areas in schools. Also with our averaging about 25 to 30 routes that we can't fill, bus routes per day. It continues to be a strain on our system. So that is not any different than any other school district anywhere around, but I do want to bring that up. And I know that our staff is shuffling as fast as they can to fill classroom spots and educational opportunities, but at the same time, that's taking them away from what they've been hired for. So we'll continue to watch. We'll continue to watch our numbers. My hope is as we get further away from the winter break, that our numbers will go down. And I know there's going to be a peak here from what I'm hearing in about a week or two from the latest variant. I'm hoping we start subsiding after that. And I know there's a lot of different feelings and emotions on both sides of that issue, but that's the reality. And so we have been committed to staying open and keeping our kids in school as best we can, because we know how bad it was when this whole thing started and kids weren't in school and we had issues with that. We had a conversation earlier today about school districts that haven't been able to stay open and what long-term learning impact that's going to have on those kids. And so the best thing that we can do is stay status quo in terms of keeping our doors open and staffing that the best way we can. I will say that with our uptick in substitutes, that's helped a little bit, but the need has outpaced that. We have about 25 new people as of end of last week that have been added to our COG, so our Council of Governments, which other districts can pull from, but we've also opened it up to people that don't have a degree, but we don't just take anybody off the street. They have to have a connection to either Lakota or a passion and a reason why. And so we are filling not just teaching positions, but also classified positions with people that are younger and might not be as experienced. And again, we're not just taking anybody off the street, but we are trying to get creative with staffing. And so we'll continue to do that. I want to mention that. We had about 71 unfilled positions today, so I did want to mention that, and I'll try to update you on that regularly. But we're filling those with other people, as I said. So we're hanging in there, but it is a strain on the system. Any questions on that? Comments, concerns?
I have a question.
Sure.
Can you run by the data? How many children are out with COVID? Is it out with COVID or quarantined?
These would be positive cases. So positive, the last I checked, I believe from January 3rd till now is about 450-ish, but you just check the dashboard, it would be on there on the website.
And you say less than 10% in school spread?
From what we can tell, but the far majority of those are unknown, but the data is only as good as what people tell us. And so if they're not sure, it goes in as unknown. Sometimes it's community spread. We do have, we have 2 sports teams that have been impacted. One of those is a JV basketball team. One is an 8th grade basketball team who've had to shut down for this week, both of them. And then one of our other sport teams is scaling back practices just because of the positivity rates.
And those positive cases are affecting the teams?
Correct. Too many people are sick.
Lack of teammates to play.
Correct. And spread when obviously when you're running around and you're sweating and doing what sport teams do.
So you would say about 45, so 10% would be
I
around,
believe it was 10 cases, not 10%.
Right.
so 10 cases. Well,
Less than
that's
10.
Out of
better
450.
numbers out of 450.
Again, that's just the data that we have. There's a lot of that is unknown because most of the time people don't know where it's coming from, quite honestly. But, you know, we're hearing from the medical experts about 60-40 in terms of community spread versus school spread. And that was holding up for us for a while, but there's just too many now to really define where it's coming from. And it runs through families. And
Right.
so that makes sense too.
That's-
Mhm.
All right, thank you.
Sure.
I have a question on the 71 unfulfilled positions. What plan are you doing and what other extra things you're doing to incentivize people to apply to get the right candidates?
So a couple of answers to that. One would be our building principals and their team have done a great job in terms of pulling people from other places to fill those classrooms. But again, that takes away from what those people are doing. One example could be a reading instructor or reading help that is now going into a classroom and servicing an entire classroom for a whole day. The supports that they were getting before, those kids were getting before from that teacher are not there while they're filling. Some teachers are teaching more than one class at a time. Some classes we do have to combine and do like a study hall. So it's really a case by case triage thing every day for our principals. We have taken central office staff out into buildings to serve as substitutes too. So some of the members of the curriculum team, tech teams, and other groups have gone into buildings to try to Band-Aid, and that's really all it is Band-Aid some of those situations. In terms of subs, we've done an all-call several times with our PR department, with Betsy and her team, putting things out on social media. I've been saying it to public groups about applying at lakotaonline.com for anybody that would like to do that, and for both classified and certified staff. But again, it's this way everywhere right now.
Yeah.
And it's not just education.
Yeah, I know. That's everywhere. Thank you.
Sure.
On the 25 routes, is it because of shortage of drivers or what happened? For you
It's
losing 25?
COVID positive
Oh,
cases.
okay.
I know it doesn't make a huge difference, but does every building now have a building sub?
We do have a building sub in every building. And we could maybe revisit that for next year. Maybe we need more than one. I can't imagine a day in any of our buildings, even pre-COVID, where we didn't need at least
Oh,
2 subs in the building.
yeah. I've talked to a couple building subs who said there's never a day they're not used.
Right.
Just curious.
Yep.
So now that you lost 25 routes, how did you get to make up for those students coming to school, or how did they get to school?
They have to rely on their parents or carpool, or they don't come to school, which is a concern too. And the Peterman Group and Transportation, Sue Pruitt, Chris Bassard, they try to rotate what buses are out, so it's not always the same routes. And so, and they get some people that'll come in and pull. I'll tell you too, this may or may not be popular with my colleagues, but as schools maybe go remote or do something else, we'll be trying to get some of their subs and or bus drivers this way.
Thank you.
I know you talked about like certain schools, you sent out a parent communication saying certain schools may have to close because we just don't have the staff. I know half my son in the freshman buildings, teachers are out right now with what appears to be COVID based on they're going to be out for 5 days. So he has a strong speculation. That's why they're going to be
Right.
out.
It's a good guess.
So have we thought about, and we've all said all along, we'll look at individual cases, individual buildings, if there's a particular building, before we go to the step of having to close that building, taking preemptive measures and going back to masking a particular building or doing something before we actually have to get to the point of closing a particular building.
I don't think anything's off the table. I think one of the examples I would use would be Cherokee. Earlier in the year, we just went remote for the families that wanted to go remote. So we did some in person and some remote as well. Pre this last variant, there wasn't much difference between masked or unmasked in terms of spread, but it might be different now because it's so bad. So that might be worth us taking a look at again.
And also part of the issue, from my understanding with staff, is it's not all COVID.
It's not, it's
We've got
flu,
people
it's
out for
other things.
Back surgeries and flus and taking care of elderly parents. So we're really in a bad way, so to speak, staff-wise.
Is there a way, I mean, this is really kind of thinking outside the box, but is there a way that we can partner with the community and parents who are available to come in and help take care? I mean, this is really thinking outside the box, but I hate to have to cancel all of these classes because of all of these different unforeseen circumstances. Is there a way that we can get the community involved for retired teachers or someone that we can call and say, hey, this class, we need someone today? I mean, is there another avenue that we can find to staff those classrooms?
Yeah. I mean, to that point, that would be great. They still need to come through like our substitute polls, just so that they're vetted
It would have to be vetted.
and background checked and things like that. But I am not opposed to any of that. And we keep putting the call out there about needing subs. So any of those like retirees. Actually, I was talking to a retired bus driver over the weekend about something very similar to that, just sort of the outreach to that group and or retired teachers or community members as well.
So this sounds like an opportunity for those in the community who are available to offer themselves up for service to help the school district overcome this
situation.
Yep, absolutely.
As long as
And
they
just
go
go
through
to
the
lakotaonline.com.
Yeah, as long as they go through lakotaonline.com.
Lakotaonline.com.
Okay.
The background check and the sub stuff. Yeah, that'd be awesome.
There was just an article in the Pulse Journal, I believe, talking about Fairfield and a grandpa who was able to see his grandchild at school every day because he was now a sub.
That would be
I
awesome.
think that would be great.
Any further comments or questions for Mr. Miller? Thank you for the level of information. We appreciate it.
Sure.
Mrs. Logan, your comments?
We recently finished up our audit for fiscal year 2021, and that audit was officially released last week. And I'm happy to report that we received a clean audit again. I believe it's the 7th consecutive year. And so we will be eligible to receive the Auditor of State Distinguished Award again, which less than 5% of entities that are audited are eligible for that. So more to come there, but just wanted to say that, you know, we've all had to think differently about how we do things. And so on the business side of the district, we've had to do that as well. We've had to modify our processes and really be flexible. And I'm just thrilled and happy with the team that while we were looking for different ways to do all of those things, we still maintained the professionalism and we still maintained that, you know, audit trail and getting the clean audit during this period of time, I think just shows that the team went above and beyond. So I'm happy to report that. So, and I think that's it for tonight from me.
We thank you for the hard work, for the high quality work that you've done, Mrs. Logan, to continue that consistent record. I think that deserves a round of applause. All right, with nothing further, we will move on to our public comment portion. The board really appreciates hearing from our community. It's very important to us, regardless of which side of an issue you stand on. We really want to know what you think. So thank you for turning out to have those conversations with us. We have a list here of people that are signed up, but they have not signed up to speak in this first portion, which is the agenda session. Is there anyone that wanted to speak on the agenda specifically? All right, seeing no one, we do have a second public comment portion that will, did I miss someone? Have you signed up to speak? Mrs. Davis? Please come forward. We'd ask we ask that you provide in as you speak or in writing to the treasurer your name and your address. And 3 minutes, please.
Okay, I'm Alicia Davis, and I live at, you want the whole, like 6323 Foxwood Court, Liberty Township, Ohio, 45044. I have a 4th grader who started at Lakota last year. My husband and I are Lakota sweethearts in some way. We both went to Lakota. We actually went to Hopewell and then Hopewell Junior. And then we went to private school. So we kind of have been in both the public realm and the private realm. Our younger son goes to Mars Hill Academy. So again, we have one in public, one in private. I think I've studied every school in the city, including the new classical school that's opening. That's a charter school. So education, though I'm not a teacher, is very important to me. The one component of the agenda. First, I just want to say welcome to the new board members. I think with the new year, new board members comes hope and just understanding for a lot's been going on, I think, since COVID. I don't know, I've never been, so I don't know how many people used to be at these meetings, but I think that's increased. And that you can look at it two ways. One, I know there's been a lot of tug and pull between the administration and the board members and the parents that come to these meetings, I think both locally and nationwide. But I think we need to look at this year as just a bunch of parents who are involved for the first time, getting really involved with their kids' education. We want to partner with these schools. We want to know what's going on with the curriculum. We want, if I were to give a goal for 22 this year, it would be for Lakota to have, think about as much transparency as you can and communication. If as a parent, I could get as many emails as I get of COVID numbers, as informed as in curriculum and what's going on in the classroom and what the teachers are going through with COVID, it would really bridge the gap between what the teachers are dealing with and how we can help. One of the ways you mentioned agenda-wise, I am getting to that, is substitutes. I'm a person who I'm not going to complain about a problem. I think I talked to Matt Miller, and I'm looping with the soup all the time now. So I talked to him one time about understanding more about the technology and really helping parents understand. So there's no textbooks anymore. Hello, welcome. But like, why? So, and that's okay, maybe. I mean, I don't agree with that, but maybe I could get on board if I understood a little more. So, and he kind of joked like, oh, are you going to head that up? Yes, I am more than happy to head anything up. I'm a doer, not a sayer. As far as substitute teachers, again, I have a toddler. I'm a stay-at-home. I really don't have the capacity, but I decided with the last call for substitutes that I would help out. I would just say, look at, because I got the email, that is a beast to apply. Number one, it's $125 plus. For me, that's okay because I have the financials, but some people don't. I have 10 seconds. I think that's what that is. Just take a look at it. It's like a maze. It's like you're going into like Gulliver's Travels. It's very hard, very complex, and I'm not even sure if I did it right. So it's very difficult. Anything you can do to make that application process easier, you will get more subs. And thank you so much to the teachers, because we don't know what you're going through, but I would love to hear more of what you're going through because we appreciate you so much, and anything we can do to bridge the gap, like, we're here for you. Anyway.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Davis. Is there anyone else that signed up to speak that wants to speak on an agenda item?
Can we respond to something that she said? We wait until everybody speaks. Okay.
Mrs. Davis, really appreciate your positive comments. Glad that you chose us out of all the school districts that you look through, and appreciate the positive about, I think it is not just the year of the parents, but the years of parent involvement. It's great to see that happening. We will be focusing on transparency and communication. I think that's important to all of us, but appreciate that encouragement. I am going to let the star of the loop in the soup talk to the substitute question and why no textbooks.
Those are both long answers.
So keep them brief. And maybe you'll follow up with
The
Mrs. Davis.
substitute, we can look at streamlining that, but that's really through our county. That's not an excuse. It's just through Butler County ESC, through our cog of government. It's not even just them, it's others too. But we can take a look at streamlining it because we don't want to make it difficult for anybody to sub, especially not right now. In terms of the technology, that's a bigger thing that we can discuss or have a conversation around. But as things change, I mean, obviously our lives have changed, our kids' lives have changed in terms of technology. Back when I was in school, when we adopted a textbook, it was maybe once every 8-12 years, and things rapidly change and accelerate. But we can have that conversation in terms of technology and curriculum, maybe at an upcoming meeting. But I just
think
wanted
that'd
to
be a great
mention that.
discussion.
Yeah.
Are there any other board comments?
Yes, I think I understand the question on why we are not using textbooks. I think that's what a lot of parents would like to be able to see with the textbooks, is the curriculum that is being taught. So yes, I think further discussion on that, on why we are not using as many textbooks. I know the cost is one reason. They're more expensive and we're able to cut costs by going online. But I think there's more discussion to also approve the curriculum that we are using online. So there is, again, more discussion to be had regarding what is being used to teach the students in the transparency piece. And then I think, why do we charge $125 to apply for a job?
That would be a county cost.
County, through the county. So what does that $125 pay for?
The application itself, but also the background check that people have to
Fingerprint.
The
go
more the
through.
background check,
Mhm.
because really you could print out a piece of paper and have them apply.
Right, that's part of it. That doesn't,
$125,
correct.
correct.
I'm
So
not sure how much the total cost is when you go through the application.
Right.
I haven't checked on it for a while, but I
Perhaps we
know
could get a breakdown.
$125 is also what we pay a day. The
For
subs.
subs. Mhm.
Is there any return on those costs when someone is substituted for a certain amount of time?
We were doing that last year for a period of time.
We
I
have.
thought we had in the
We
past.
can, there's been a lot of changes and incentives that we've put into the whole sub
Mhm.
situation, and we could probably put something together. Rob Kramer could help us put something together that just talks about all those different things that have changed and been incentives to try to increase that pool. And I know the cost of the application and the background check and all of that, we had talked about that before. And after they had worked so many days to reimburse them, I'm just not sure where we are with all the different changes.
Mhm.
And so maybe Rob could.
Could we get an update in our next meeting?
Sure.
Great. Again, thank you, Mrs. Davis, for your comments. Anything further, board?
thank you.
All right, we'll move on to agenda item 23, board updates. These will be board updates from last year's committee, and so there may not be updates from these committees, so we'll see if those members are still available too. Mrs. Schaefer, Board Policy Committee.
No update since last year.
Thank you. And that will be Mrs. Schaefer and Mrs. Bodie beginning the first Friday in February for policy. Community Engagement Committee, Mrs. Casper, do you have anything?
We have not met as a committee. We will be meeting going forward because we do have the second half of community conversations to plan.
Why not? And that will be Mrs. Schaefer and myself, and we will also be meeting on the first Friday at noon. Butler Technology and Career Development Schools. Have you met since the last meeting?
We have not, but we have gotten an update from the superintendent that the applications have been coming in, and because they've started the sophomore academy, which it used to be that they just served sophomores or juniors and seniors rather, but now they serve sophomores and then they get priority placement in the programs. And because of that, particularly popular programs such as welding have had most of their places filled with just sophomores because of them getting priority. So right now they're examining, because there's limited lab space at Butler Tech, if there's any less popular programs they can sunset, or if there's other ways to expand their lab capacity. So currently that's what they're trying to do prior to the application deadline, is see how they can expand program opportunities, particularly in welding. Because again, it's such a popular program, both on the student side as well as on the employment side. So, well, we haven't had a meeting. That was an update from the superintendent that that's a high priority for them right now, of looking at how to expand opportunities. So I will keep you apprised after our next meeting. I'm sure we'll get a further updates on that.
Questions? Excuse me, any questions from Mrs. Schaefer?
I have a question, Ms. Schaefer. I can remember the last time we talked about Butler Tech. You mentioned, just needed a little bit more clarification of that. How many FTEs did we lost so far in the recent past? FTEs.
There was a program that Lakota had sunsetted. So I think over the last 5 years, there's been a reduction of 2.
2 FTEs. What would be the reason for that?
There was a request for a program to be eliminated, and I don't have that information with me. Maybe Mr. Coney can speak to that. Do you want to?
Yeah, it's okay. We can have a report on that if before the next meeting. if
Yeah,
possible.
or he can, do you want to come to the mic, Mr. Coney, and say why Lakota requested to reduce that program with Butler Tech, or do you not have that information handy right now either? Or Mr. Miller?
I don't have that. no.
I don't mean to put
Okay.
you on the spot, so we can.
Okay, we can do it next time.
Yeah.
All right, yeah, I
have
had
that
that
report.
information for last time, but I don't have it handy.
Yeah, if we can have that report before next meeting, that would be
Yeah,
best.
I-
Good.
Any further questions? All right, we'll move to legislative. Mr. Miller, would you like to start us there?
Boy, we have not met as a group since before break, I don't believe. In terms of any legislative action, they don't tend to, George gone, they don't tend to work too much over break. I have a legislative meeting on the 17th.
Would you like to talk about the conference you just participated in?
There was a leadership conference through Ashland University that they asked me to serve on the panel. One of the firms that we have approved tonight, actually. And so we talked a lot about how all districts are in the same position in terms of COVID and where we are with staffing. And so it was a good to network and see what other people are doing and sort of compare notes and steal some idea sharing. Thank you.
All right, any questions for Mr. Miller? Mrs. Logan?
Just like Mr. Miller, we have not met recently, but I have seen some activity in the past week or two where some boards of education around the state have been adopting resolutions in opposition to the backpack bill. So I'm not sure if you all have seen anything like that, if OSBA, if you have seen any kind of sample resolutions, if that's something that you might want to consider. But that's really been in the past couple of weeks, that's been the legislative activity, if you will, that I have seen come across and through my email. So that's about it.
Thank you. Any questions?
I will be attending a training or an informational meeting, I guess, regarding the backpack bill this week. So I can definitely give some information on what I've learned from that.
Terrific. Kelly, do you have anything?
No, I don't. Who's putting that training on? Empower You.
I think I'm going to be.
Online class.
Yeah,
Yes, it is
it's
an
on the
online-
13th, right?
An
Is it on the
online
13th?
class.
This is, but I'm going to ask you to bring your mic forward a little bit more. These don't necessarily pick us
Yes,
up.
it's a free online. I believe you can watch it online, but there's a location about 15, 20 minutes from here that I can go to and learn about it. It's empoweryou.com, I believe, and anyone is welcome to come.
We'll look forward to hearing about it. I have, since our last meeting, attended the Southwest Regional meeting, Executive Committee meeting. There were some new members brought on board from some districts that we hadn't had before, so that was terrific to see, and a changeover of officers at the same time. And the first meeting, I believe, is February 8th, first meeting of this year.
When is the
spring conference is March 8th. So please go ahead and put that on your calendars.
What is the date?
March 8th.
You know where yet?
It's in Warren County, but I'll have to look it up. I'll send it to you.
And-
I'll send it out to everyone. Anything else legislatively? All right. Seeing nothing, we'll move on to new business. Is there new business?
Yes. I want to make a motion. Yes. Give me a minute. Oh, somebody not get it.
Is there any other new business?
Yes, I have new business.
Then you're quicker than Mr. Adi, so please go ahead.
I am giving notice that I will be recommending changes to the COVID policy in the February 4th policy meeting. These changes will include that we allow parents to make decisions in all circumstances regarding the masking of their children and removing divisive language regarding the vaccinated and the unvaccinated. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Bodie. Mr. Adi?
Okay, also want to make a motion. This is a notice for intent to bring forward a revised policy for public participation, specifically policy number 0169.1 that was adopted at the November 29th, 2021 meeting. This will prepare and presented at the policy first policy committee meeting on February 4th, 2022. There are several parts of this policy that are cause for concern. For instance, only allowing an attendee to speak once at a meeting while restricting the first public comment section to agenda only. I look forward to this discussion by the board.
Thank you, Mr. Adi. It sounds like our policy committee will be busy at that first meeting. Is there any other new business? All right, seeing none, we'll move on to treasurer's recommendation, action items. A, approval of the board minutes. And I hope everyone has had a chance to see those. You'll find those on board docs. And approval of monthly financial reports for December 2021. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Julie. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Isaac. I have a motion and a second. Is there discussion?
We are on number 24.
25.
25.
25.
I had a question. Never mind. Go ahead.
You have a question?
No, this next one.
Give us a moment. We'll get there.
Sorry.
All right, I have a motion and a second. Seeing no discussion, please call the roll.
Mrs. Schaefer,
Yes.
Mr. Adi,
Yes.
Mrs. Casper,
Yes.
Mrs. Bodie,
Yes.
Mrs. O'Connor.
Yes. Thank you. The motion passes. Superintendent's recommendations, number 26, action items. That would be approval of personnel items attached to the agenda and approval of donations also attached to the agenda. Do I have a motion?
I'll move.
Thank you, Kelly. Do I have a second?
A second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there discussion?
Yes, I was noticing last week or last meeting under sorry, let me pull it up here. Under support staff resignations, there were, I believe, 9, and then there are now 13 resignations. So I was wondering, is this a discussion that we need to have with the union and get some feedback on why we are having all of these resignations, or could you give us some insight onto why this is happening?
Sure. Just generally speaking, in the classified staff, there is a higher rate of turnover, to be honest with you. Some of that is because of rates of pay. Some of it is because people get new jobs. And it's not uncommon that we have that many, especially this time of year, we're starting a new calendar year, that things like that happen. But, you know, again, every case is different. Sometimes it's just a resignation. Sometimes it's a retirement, but it doesn't show up as a retirement because they wouldn't have retired from Lakota. So it's case by case basis, but I can tell you that our union, LSSA, just met with our regularly scheduled meeting where they talk about items like this. So I have not heard of anything alarming one way or another.
What does the beginning of the new year have to do with their resignation?
Just that
How does
sometimes
that-
when you start a new job, sometimes during break, going into a new year, sometimes it's the new school year too. It's just a different time for people to get a job.
Okay.
Again, it just goes by, it's just a case by case basis for individuals.
And what I am kind of looking at is each employee is an investment, and we're investing time and money into the staff. And what is their tenure? How long are they staying when they're leaving? Are we losing in our investment? So I'm wondering, is this turnover something that is that's normal all year round, or is it just like just specifically for this time of the
Are
year?
you thinking there's a retention issue?
Yes. Is there a retention issue?
To my knowledge, no, but we can certainly check that out and get back to you at the next meeting. But to my knowledge, no. A lot of times it's just people getting a better job and they move on, especially in the classified ranks. And sometimes it's a pay issue. They can make more somewhere else, so they're going to.
Right.
And I don't begrudge them that, but I get your concern about the investment that we have. So plus, I don't think this is not a normal time for employees in the workforce anywhere right now for whatever reason. Well, for the reason.
So if I may add to that, to be able to know the reason why we lost or people like that are leaving, do we have a program or something to get a feedback on the reason why we are losing them, to ensure that we don't have those kind of
like an exit interview?
Yes.
Yeah, we do that frequently. Not always, but we do those frequently.
It should be done all the time.
Yep.
Because that will help you to know why you're losing people, so that we can prevent those. Sometimes you may have to maybe renegotiate.
Right.
If there's something that we can take in, because like she's saying, we have invested in them, we have trained them, we have brought them to our level, then they leave to another school.
Yep.
So,
I agree.
Great comments. So
I'll talk to Mr. Kramer in HR and get more of a
Yes.
answer.
Thank you.
Sure.
so an update at the next meeting.
Sure.
I believe I raised the same question in December, so it could just be a trend we have happening, but it'd be nice to understand it better. Thank you, Mr. Miller.
Sure.
I have a motion and a second. Is there further discussion? All right, would you please call the roll?
Mrs. Casper,
Yes.
Mrs. Bodie,
Yes.
Mr. Adi,
yes.
Mrs. Schaefer,
Yes.
Mrs. O'Connor.
Yes. We've come to our second public comment portion. If there is anyone that would like to speak, we have several people signed up that wanted to speak on something other than the agenda item. So we'll just go down the list. Mrs. Manier. And again, I would ask you to say your name and address, or please provide it to our treasurer in writing.
Good evening. I'm Jamie Manier, 6703 Liberty Park Drive. Hello, new board. Welcome. Congratulations.
Thank you.
I'm just going to second what Darby said about the COVID situation. In March, it's going to be 2 years. So I think it's time to be done and to allow parents to manage their children's illnesses as we have always done: masking, vaccine, and illness. I'm asking the board to step out of this arena, get back to educating the kids and focusing on that 100%. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Manier. Jennifer Richardson.
Hello, my name is Jennifer Richardson. I live on Tyler's Valley Drive in Westchester. Many of my friends, neighbors, and family members currently have students in Lakota schools, and they would like to have their voices heard this evening. But due to COVID concerns, especially because many of the people in this room do not wear masks to protect others, or work obligations, not everyone works 9 to 5, or other important reasons, they cannot be here tonight. We are still in the middle of a pandemic. I would ask the board to please consider once again allowing people to make comments via Zoom. So a few of my friends reached out to me today who could not be here. My friend Jen has a student in Lakota, and she is, quote, concerned about the rising numbers of COVID cases, especially in the high schools, and I would like to see the board reconsider the mask mandate, end quote. My friend Kelly would like to be here tonight, but she, quote, cannot expose myself or my husband. I have requested that they turn back on commenting via Zoom, via email, no response. My friend Nika has 2 students enrolled in Lakota. Quote, everyone should be required to wear masks, not just those who've been exposed. This will help keep kids and staff in school. I want my kids to have classroom instruction. It is so critical, end quote. My friend Dana wants the board to know that Sycamore, Princeton, Loveland, Middletown, Cincinnati Public Schools are requiring masks for all students. I think it's reasonable to require them for 2 weeks and then reassess school and community levels of infection. Dana is also, quote, curious to hear how they are contact tracing to definitively say only a few cases have transmitted in schools. And I just want to say congratulations to Mrs. Casper. I really appreciate all the hard work you put into making Lakota. all the hard work you put into making Lakota Schools an excellent school district. Also, congratulations to our newly elected board members, Mrs. Bodie and Mr. Audie. My hope is that you work hard for all students in Lakota and that you refrain from pushing your political party's views and agenda at our school district. Reminder, the school board is meant to be nonpartisan. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, Mrs. Richardson. Our next speaker is Sandy Wheatley.
Wheatley, 8729 Monticello Drive. I think it was stated that I want to go on record to say now that I'm going to bring up a resolution at the policy meeting, but the resolution was read so quickly and so fast that I was wondering if at some point the president could read whatever that resolution that's going to be forthcoming at the policy meeting around change, because it was very hard to understand. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Wheatley. Mrs. Erdl.
Good evening, Christy Erdl, Princeton Road, Liberty Township. I just have a quick question in regards to the email that was just sent out regarding quarantine. And the question is specific for those children that have medical exemptions. There was no clarification in terms of if close contact is to occur, do we honor the medical exemption that's on file? So if someone could clarify that, I would greatly appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Erdl. Mrs. Cook?
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Jamie Cook and I live in Liberty Township. First, I just want to commend the board and the Lakota District on safety precautions and attempting to keep students in school and work together regardless of differing views. I really appreciate that. My comment today relates to the new COVID-19 quarantine and isolation protocols, specifically, sorry about that, I'm losing everything. Specifically related to quarantine. So while I appreciate that they're allowing students identified as close contacts in school to remain in school regardless of vax status, I take issue with the policy indicating if you are identified as a close contact outside of school, if you are fully vaccinated, continue attending school, but wear a mask for 10 days after your last exposure. If you are not fully vaccinated, stay home for 5 days after your last exposure and then wear a mask. I lost my information. And then wear a mask. I had it all here. Sorry. Shoot.
Take your time, it's fine.
So as a close contact is a close contact. So whether in or out of school, I believe it's discrimination to require non-vaccinated students to stay home while vaccinated students may remain in school if both have had close contact outside of school. I believe the asymptomatic vaccinated folks who are the ones who are largely spreading the virus at a higher rate in many cases, because those who are symptomatic are already quarantining at home. Both groups should be treated equally. I believe that choosing not to receive an experimental gene therapy being used as a vaccination does not increase chances of spreading to others. All through the fall leading up to the holidays, most everyone I knew who had contracted COVID-19 were vaccinated and spreading to each other without realizing it, including my brother, my nieces, other family members, and friends. I would love to see this discrimination addressed at the board level. It puts unfair stress and pressure on parents who have made a conscientious choice not to subject their children to this shot for their own reasons, for which we have no long-term side effects and data. Whatever policy the board adopts, I simply think should be applied equally to all students, regardless of vax status. I also think it can be perceived as manipulation by some parents, manipulating parents who work or are afraid of being required to keep their children at home to receive a shot for which they may not have had a personal comfort level. On another note, with regard to the masking policy and substitute teaching, I am a teacher. I taught for 15 years in public and private school, including the last 8 in Princeton City Schools. I've also homeschooled. I've considered
for a long time as my children were getting older doing subbing. The reason I have not subbed this year, and the reason I have not put an application is because of the mask policy that was in place at the beginning of the year. I was not in a position to be able to wear a mask all day long. I could not handle doing it. I volunteered in the classroom and worn a mask, and I could barely wear the mask for the 2 hours that I was required to wear the mask in the classroom. So I think that that is a significant issue that may need to be considered or addressed as well. So thank you very much for your time. I
Thank you,
appreciate
Mrs.
it.
Cook.
Alex Argo, Mr. Argo.
My name is Alex Argo, 6335 Coach House Way, Liberty Township. So in late December, during our break, the Ohio Hospital Association and Ohio Children's Hospital Association sent a letter to the school superintendents and school boards asking them to require masks for all upon our return because they were seeing a large uptick in hospitalizations. The governor also made a similar request. On January 7th, Dr. Patty Manning, the Cincinnati Children's Hospital Chief of Staff, said that their numbers of hospitalized children with COVID had quadrupled in the past week from the previous low double digits, and they are the highest point that they have been in this entire pandemic. We are all seeing the emails with large numbers of staff and student cases that continue today, even today. In previous communications after the mask mandate was removed, the district said that it would be reinstated if we saw a spike in cases, and it certainly seems like that's what we're seeing right now. Other communications have stated that we are doing all that we can and we are not seeing in-school spread, but this is based on data from a different variant that we are dealing with than we are dealing with now and from a different time period. Personally, my 6-year-old daughter tested positive for COVID just weeks after the mandate was lifted after avoiding it all this time. School is the most likely place she contracted it, but we don't know for sure, so put her down as another unknown. She ended up spending Thanksgiving dinner in isolation and ate with us over FaceTime. We didn't get a call from the contact tracer until she was back at school, and there are exponentially more cases now. Epidemiologists predict this wave will peak in our region in the next few weeks, as Mr. Miller noted. If we were waiting to get the data from the contact tracers to show in school spread with this new variant, we may have already shut down multiple schools at that point. Many schools in our area never dropped their mask mandate in the first place, and many have reinstated them temporarily for the expected spike due to Omicron. I know keeping kids in school is of utmost importance to all of you. What are you willing to do today to keep our kids in school? As you work towards that goal, I ask that you recognize and acknowledge your role in our communities. The decisions that you make for our students, teachers, and staff members impact everyone in Westchester and Liberty Township, people across Butler County, and it could also negatively affect our hospitals and so much more. As one of the largest districts in the state and in this area, Lakota is often viewed as being a role model for other districts. Like it or not, that comes with a responsibility to be part of the solution, not part of the problem. As a member of the community, I ask the administration and the board to be mindful of the many ways that your decisions in the near future can either help mitigate this crisis or make it worse. The choice is all up to you. Please take it seriously. Your personal biases don't matter when it comes to the safety of all the residents in this district. As elected officials, you now have the responsibility to make decisions that are in the best interest of all students.
Mr. Argo, could you wrap up, please? Oh, you can finish your sentence. Just please wrap up.
Okay. All students, families, and taxpayers in this district.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And our final speaker is Mrs. McVeigh. No. Okay. All right.
Very confusing.
I think we need to work on this form, quite frankly. We need to make it a little easier for us to understand. All right. Appreciate all of the comments. Much of it centered around our COVID situation, as it has for the past few years. Mrs. Davis, thank you for your comments to us in your earlier part of the public comment section. Mrs. Menier. I think managing this illness, and we've had discussion about this before, about managing this as we do other public health crisis, and the same way that we handle that is certainly a thought that I find some merit to. Mrs. Richardson, again, was weighing in for a number of people and also wanted the board to consider allowing comments via Zoom for those who are not comfortable. I would have to throw that to the officer from last year, the officer from 2 years ago when we decided not to do that. I'm not sure what the reasoning was behind it. I'm not trying to put you on the spot.
I know.
And maybe that's something we can consider at agenda meeting, getting some feedback on why that was done in the first place.
Yes, the reason it was done, it was when we came back in person and there were so many people speaking that most of the time we didn't have time we ran out of time before we got to Zoom. And when we came back in person as a board, we decided to do away with the Zoom comments for that reason. That's, again, 2 years ago. Jenny, correct me if I'm wrong, but that's what I
If
recall.
I'm understanding correctly, it's the time limit that we put on our public comment section that we had enough in-person comment that we did not have time to address.
That was one of the reasons. Jenny, do you remember?
Correct. That was one of the reasons. And then again, when we came back, we opened that up as an opportunity for people when we weren't allowing people to come and there was limited seating. And so then when you opened it up, we had the overflow room and there was no limit on the number of people who could attend. We went away from the Zoom comments. That's what I remember.
Right. And I think it also coincided, Linda, with when we were no longer allowed to be on Zoom for us, where we had to start meeting in person. So I think those were some of the reasons. I have no issue.
I would
to
be
revisit
open
it.
to revisiting that question if the board is amenable to it.
I don't have a problem with it.
I vaguely remember the conversation earlier last year. We were allowing comment on Zoom, and then we changed it because you changed it because the policy was for COVID. And since
That was us on Zoom.
right,
I mean, us being on Zoom.
right. So I think, is she wanting us to be able to be back on Zoom?
She would like people that are watching to be able to
Not just observe, but be able to.
be able to ask a
Participate.
That was
question.
just recently changed, not to, from what I understand, from what I remember.
It's been since we've been back in person. It was a year, I think, in June at the very earliest.
So
Because we
really,
came back
really
in
just like
June.
6 months ago.
So it would have been a year in June, I think. That again, I'd have to go back and look.
It's all a blur.
It's all a blur.
It's all.
I just remember being here at the meetings last year. So I guess this is 2022. So that would, sound about right. Because we were not offering accommodations with COVID because it had calmed down a little bit.
Right, and
more.
we had opened the meetings back up.
So
and
it would
yeah.
make more sense to submit those accommodations again because of certain people's concerns over COVID.
So is the board open to revisiting that question?
Yeah.
All right, then we will do that. Perhaps we'll gather some information and perhaps of pros and cons about the best way to make that work. And thank you for raising the question, Mrs. Richardson. Mrs. Wheatley has requested that Mrs. Bodie restate her resolution. Or actually, I'm going to let Mrs. Bodie restate it. Would you bring your microphone forward a little bit more so we can make sure everyone can hear you? And maybe
How
slow
does
it
this
down a little
sound?
bit. That's great.
Okay. So I gave notice that I will be recommending changes to the COVID policy in the February 4th policy meeting. These changes will include that we allow parents to make decisions in all circumstances regarding the masking of their children and removing divisive language regarding the vaccinated and the unvaccinated.
Thank you, Mrs. Bodie. Mrs. Erdl had a question around our medical exemptions being honored. Mr. Miller, would you like to address that?
Sure. right now, there's no current allowance in the mass to stay, test to play guidance from the Ohio Department of Health or the Butler County Health Department. That doesn't mean I can't ask, but right now there's not. And just a reminder, we don't have a COVID policy per se. We're just following the guidance of them. So just want to make mention of that. But I'm glad to ask them.
Thank you. Mrs. Cook had several comments, including the fact that for her, the masking policy was restricted her actually from being a substitute. Talked about a concern, and I believe Mr. Miller had already raised the question with you around vaccinated and unvaccinated, and is there different treatment? And I think you were researching that question.
So I can tell you that differentiation comes again from the Ohio Department of Health and the Butler County Health Department. And so the guidance back in the fall was school districts can't do that, but the Ohio Department of Health can. I'm saying it, sort of paraphrasing it, but that was the legal opinion on that. So we wouldn't be able to institute something on our own. School districts could not institute something between vaccinated and unvaccinated on their own. And I have never said that we're going to vaccinate everybody or everybody needs to that works here. And I've said that before. I'm saying it again.
I think it was actually based around the Butler County Health Department guidelines that are different for vaccinated versus unvaccinated.
Correct. Yeah.
Quarantines.
ODH, quarantine.
Right.
Correct.
And so those are the guidelines that we're going by. But what happens if you choose not to follow the quarantine with the masks? So the mask exemption, they are exempted. So what if they choose not to follow
That would be,
guidelines? What are the repercussions?
that would be up to the health department because they're the ones that enforce it.
So that would be a health department coming into our school and saying to a specific person that you are disobeying our guidance.
I'm not sure how they would handle that, but they wouldn't come to school to do that.
Right. So it's really up to the person if they want to follow the guidance or not. And they should not be reprimanded.
No, as it's stated now, because there's no exemption in their policy for for mask to stay, test to play. There's no medical exemption allowance for that. So they couldn't come back to school until they hit the threshold of 10 days. Then they could come back.
Something that we could allow? And I mean, I believe that's something that we could actually make our own motion to accept the medical exemptions for the test to stay.
I'm not sure what the legal advice on that would be, but we can ask.
Do we,
He has to check with legal.
can
Can't
we just
a
make that
motion.
our motion? Do we have to run everything by legal?
We do if it puts us in
Jeopardy?
There could be-
Yeah, I was gonna
jeopardy
say.
with liability.
There could be a liability, so it's good to make use of the attorneys we have.
We have 5 on board. We should make use of those firms.
Yeah.
I think there's more to this discussion for sure.
I think there is more to
Yeah.
this
Yeah, that's
discussion, but I
the-
think some further information would help to enrich that discussion. So,
And I haven't had a parent yet that said that was an issue for them,
I think we just had 2 tonight.
for their own cases is what I'm saying.
Mr. Miller, is that something that you can research further?
Absolutely.
Yes.
All right. We'll expect to follow up then on that if you would, please. And Mr. Argo voiced concerns with rising numbers, hospitalizations. And I'm sorry your daughter was sick, Mr. Argo. That's tough watching your kids when they're sick. And some questions about school spread. And thank you for your comments. We appreciate that. Mr. Miller, Mrs. Logan, do you have any further comments on our public comments?
The only one that I would just want to point out is there was a comment earlier made about when you get back to educating our kids, and I will say on behalf of my teachers and staff, we haven't stopped. That's all.
Any further board comments or questions? All right, we will move to closing comments, number 28 on our agenda. This is an opportunity, Mr. Adi and Mrs. Bodie, to wrap it up, say whatever's on your mind, talk about student events that you've been at, things you've enjoyed in the community, talk about whatever's on your mind. So I will start with Mr. Miller because he's used to doing this.
Yeah. He drinks out of his coffee.
January is Board Appreciation Month. On behalf of the executive team in central office, you have some a gift bag at your table. So thanks to the team for putting that together and doing that. And it's hard to appreciate two new people when it's your first meeting, but we appreciate you. And we appreciate our three that have been here and the two that we said goodbye to last month. So thank you for all the work that you are doing and putting in. And I'm looking forward to a great year. So,
Yeah, and please don't expect a present every board meeting. But it is board
that's Butler
appreciation.
Tech that does that.
Only by Butler Tech, yeah.
You could have let him go with that for a little longer, Jenny.
Right. So welcome to our two new board members, and congratulations again to Mrs. Casper for re-election. Looking forward to starting out to 2022, and to your point, yeah, it's nice to talk about things other than COVID. The work continues, and so happy to be here.
Yeah, I had to look at the gift so that I know what I should expect the next meeting. I want to use this opportunity again to thank everyone. I know you all know where I stand. I stand for the students. I remember one of the comments that was made here. We all stand for all the students. I stand for all the students. And that is why if there's anything that we need to review, we need to collaborate, we need to talk about it, we need to give everybody the opportunity to air their view. And we will always make sure that we are fair across the board. We're going to keep, I'm going to keep my own personal views out of it. We're going to make sure it's what is benefit for the students. We want to turn this school district to be, I know my students graduated from this school, so I want to go back to that time, that when my kids graduated, I know what the grades they had. So I'm going to do my best, and I'm going to be open. If you don't have my email and you need it, I provide it for you. Send me your issues. We will look through everything and make sure we do what is necessary without being, put away our personal issues, politics out of it. The goal is the students, and that is what I'm going to be doing. So I want to thank my colleagues, and I believe we're going to have a wonderful time working together. So long as we collaborate, understand each other, I think we're going to do great. Thanks, Matt and Jenny, for all your support. I've asked a lot of questions. I visited you guys, and you helped me to know what I need to learn before my first meeting. So thank you. Appreciate that.
Thank you, Mr. D. Mrs. Casper.
Oh, let's see, we'll start with Mrs. Logan. It is commonplace for us to get the clean audit, and I think we don't take it for granted, but I want the community to understand, like you said, 5% of, and not just school boards, correct? 5% of trustees, 5% of any government entity, only 5% get this kind of audit. So I know it's a team effort. So I just want to thank you and your team again, and make sure that we just don't take it for granted, because it's a lot of hard work that goes behind it. Welcome to our two new board members. We're looking forward to working together to, like Mr. Adi said, to do what's best for all of our students. So I'm looking forward to that.
Thank you, Mrs. Casper. Mrs. Schaefer.
And again, Kelly said much of what I planned to say. I know She deserves all the accolades she can get. I think, again, I would question whether there's any other public entity in the state that has now gotten a clean audit for 7 years in a row. So congratulations to the entire team. Like Kelly said, I do think sometimes we've just grown to anticipate that. And that's not a fair anticipation because it is such an unusual event. So kudos to everyone for creating. I think that speaks to the processes that you've put together as well as the people, because I think another thing that people don't realize is Jenny does an excellent job of developing and promoting the people within her department to move on to bigger and better things. So there's often new people in those roles. It's not like it's been the same people in those jobs for 7 years. So it's often different people, and that speaks to what she's put together for her systems within her organization, which I think speaks very well for her leadership. So congratulations on that achievement. And again, welcome to our new board and to a new year and to new heights in student achievement for 2022 or 2000, what is it? 2022. Yeah, I can't believe we're here. And that the year is halfway over, that we're into the second semester. So congratulations to all of our staff that you made it through this another semester with doing great things for kids. And I look forward to another great semester in the second half of the year.
Thank you. So I got involved with the school board and in the community because as a parent over the past year and a half, I think COVID has opened our eyes to a lot of things, and the children are our future. And I got involved because I see where our future is headed at this point in time. And we are concerned, I think, with what we see the future looking like. And so I think and it's not from you guys. It's not, I'm not like saying it's your fault that we're saying, but in general, I think we are concerned as a nation with where our children are headed. And so I got involved to be a voice that is not being heard. I think we've been trying to speak up at meetings in the past, and we've been trying to, give our input in other areas and avenues. And we are here for the children, and we are a voice that has not been listened to in the past. And so that is why, I want you guys to think that we do have the children's future in mind and what is best for them. And I believe that we are not just the voice of the majority, but we are also the voice of the minority. And not all voices are being heard. So we want to make sure that in this new role that all of the voices are being heard from the community. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. The audit piece is an incredible demonstration of work, but why it's important is because financial transparency and accountability to our community is a critical factor in how our community views us in terms of trustworthiness. Can they entrust us with our taxpayer dollars? Are we handling that appropriately? And I think we as elected members absolutely have to regard that and must demonstrate that that's a priority for us. So thank you for the quality work and appreciate that it's been recognized by the state. January 17th is coming up, and that will be the annual day that we recognize students that have taken part in the Martin Luther King contest. And this year we had 800 submissions, which is incredible, from all grade levels, special needs, gifted, several different mediums. It was writing, it was videos, it was photos. They did a great job. It was a couple of long Saturdays judging those submissions, but they were very worthwhile to see. And the contest was based on the beloved community. And the kids talking about have they experienced the beloved community and what can they as citizens do to help be a part of a beloved community. And there were some very thoughtful responses. So there will be a march that happens starting at 10:30 over at Cabela's, and everyone is welcome to take part in that. Community, school, whoever would like to take part in that. Then there'll be a lunch following afterwards at Saban Hall.
Can I jump in on that real fast?
Absolutely.
You're sure 10:30 and not 10?
Did I say 10? Yeah, I'm sorry. You're right. It's 10.
I think it's Cabela's over to Liberty Center.
10
and it's-
o'clock.
And it's not lunch. It's just hot chocolate.
Well, that changed. That changed.
I mean, if you want to buy me lunch, I'm totally down with that.
So bring your own lunch. That's what that
Or eat at
means.
Liberty Center.
Or eat at Liberty Center.
I could
Support our
be
local
wrong, but
businesses.
I don't think so on that one.
I don't think so on that one.
I think it's hot chocolate.
So there was talk of getting lunch, but I'll have to,
The last thing
Verify.
I saw was,
don't come hungry. I think that's the best advice. So I want to say to the board, again, thank you for your support. Very much appreciate that tonight. And this was a smooth first meeting of the year. Glad to see that. Welcoming our 2 new board members and Mrs. Casper back to the table. You know, there are very diverse skills, life experiences, education, thinking. Such a different group of people sitting around the table that bring a lot to the table. We have a tremendous amount of challenges in front of us. Some of those have been ongoing. We've been dealing with COVID now for 2 years, which should count in dog years for board years, actually. They've been something else. Many challenges, but I think we can tackle them together. We've got a great administration to assist us. And I will do my very best to make sure that everybody's voice is heard at the table and that we have respectful and collegial conversations that help us to get to good places. So with that being said, I would like a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you, Mrs.
Second.
Schaefer. Thank you, Mr. Adi.
Thank you.
Any discussion? All right.
Oh, let's stay longer.
Call the roll.
Mrs. Schaefer,
Yes.
Mr. Adi,
Yes.
Mrs. Bodie,
Yes.
Mrs. Casper,
Yes.
and Mrs. O'Connor.
Yes, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you so much for coming out tonight.